All right, welcome. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to peek inside your medicine cabinet and explore the incredible chemistry that makes those little pills work. I mean, have you ever really thought about it? You get a headache, you swallow a tiny pill, and somehow the pain just goes away. How does it know what to do? It seems like straight up magic, right? Well, it's not. It's just some incredibly smart, targeted chemistry. So let's get into it. First up, let's tackle something we've all dealt with: pain. And to do that, we need to understand the drugs that are designed to fight it. So the fancy word for these things is analgesics. And the main thing to know is that they work by going after our central nervous system. Think of it as the body's command center for pain. And the cool part is, they do all this without knocking you out. When you look at painkillers, they basically fall into two big buckets. As you can see here, you've got the opioids on one side and the non-opioids on the other. They both fight pain, but they go about it in totally different ways. For our purposes today, we're going to dive deep into just one of those, the opioids. These are the heavy hitters, what used to be called narcotics. They're typically used for more serious pain because they work directly on the brain. Okay, so how in the world do they actually turn off the pain signal? Well, the best way to think about it is like a super specific lock and key. The drug is the key, and a special receptor in your nervous system is the lock. Think of an opioid agonist as the perfect key. It slides into the lock, that's the receptor, it turns, and boom, you get pain relief. Now, a narcotic antagonist is like a trick key. It fits in the lock perfectly, but it's designed not to turn. It just gets stuck in there, jamming the keyhole so the real key can't get in. And you can imagine this is absolutely vital for reversing an overdose, right? It blocks the opioid from working. So you might be asking, how can two different things fit into the same lock? Well, this quote right here nails it. It all comes down to their chemical blueprint. They're basically cousins. They are built in a very, very similar way. And check this out. This is the perfect visual. Forget the labels for a second. Just look at the shapes of these two molecules. Morphine, the key, is on the left. Now larfine, the blocker, is on the right. They look like twins, don't they? That one tiny difference in their structure is the whole game. That one tweak is the difference between a key that works and a key that just blocks the lock. It's just incredible, isn't it? All right, let's switch gears. We're moving from the nervous system to the body's electrical system. I'm talking about the heart. Sometimes the electrical signals that keep your heart beating steadily can get all out of whack, and that's when you have an irregular heartbeat, or an arrhythmia. And this is where antiarrhythmic drugs step in. Their whole job is to act like a conductor for an orchestra, getting those electrical signals back in sync and restoring a nice, normal rhythm. So, chemists have come up with 4 main strategies to do this. Each class of drug targets a different part of the process. They block different channels, which are kind of like tiny gates that let charged particles in and out. By controlling these gates for things like sodium or calcium, they can get the heart's rhythm back on track. We're just going to focus on one of these for now. Class 2, the beta blockers. And you'll see why in a second, because they're going to pop up again pretty soon. Okay, on to our last big topic, high blood pressure. And for this, we've got another great analogy. If the heart is an electrical grid, think of your circulatory system, your veins and arteries, as the body's plumbing. High blood pressure is basically too much pressure inside the pipes. The drugs that deal with this are called antihypertensive agents. And look, their job is way more important than just making a number on a cuff go down. The real goal here is to prevent the big, scary stuff, like strokes and heart attacks. And, just like with heart rhythm, there's more than one way to solve the problem. You can relax the pipes, you can work on the body's hormone systems, and hey, look who's back, beta blockers. See, one type of drug, multiple different jobs. So let's zoom in on one of those beta blockers we keep talking about, propranolol. You're looking at its chemical structure right now. That exact shape, that specific layout of atoms, is what gives it its power. So what does it actually do? Well, in simple terms, propranolol just tells the heart to chill out a bit. It slows the heart rate down, which means it's not pumping with so much force. This is obviously great for high blood pressure, but, fun fact, it's also why it can help with the physical jitters you get from anxiety, like a racing pulse. All right, now let's look at a completely different tool that fixes the same problem, methyl dopa. You don't have to be a chemist to see that this molecule looks totally different from propranolol, and that tells you it must work in a different way. And you'd be right. Instead of telling the heart to slow down, methyl dopa goes straight to the pipes, the blood vessels, and tells them to relax. This makes them wider so the blood can flow through more easily. Less pressure, problem solved. It's two different keys for two different locks, but they both open the door to lower blood pressure. Okay, let's pull back for the big picture here. What we've really been looking at today, from painkillers to heart meds, is this incredible, high-stakes chemical balancing act. The playbook is almost always the same. First, you identify a problem in the body. Then you figure out the exact chemical pathway that's causing it. Step 3, you design a molecule, a key that can get in there and interact with it. And finally, you test and tweak and refine that key until it's as safe and effective as possible. Which brings us right back to where we started, with that lock and key idea. It doesn't matter if we're talking about blocking a pain signal, or fine-tuning an ion channel in the heart, or getting a blood vessel to relax. Every single one of these medicines is just a precisely designed chemical key, made to fit one very, very specific biological lock. This amazing molecular-level precision, that is modern medicine. But it also leaves us with a really big question to chew on. As we get better and better at designing these unbelievably powerful keys, how do we make absolutely sure they're always used to unlock healing and not something else?